Hi guys, welcome to what? The Quick Church. You know how we do it. Quick, concise Bible studies. 15 minutes or less. But today's topic, I think we'll have to break it into two parts because we're going to be looking at two very large scriptures. Now, we've been told that the devil is Lucifer based on revelations. And we have heard some scriptures like Isaiah 14 and Ezekiel chapter 28. And I decided to do some study, like I said, and I came out with very mind-blowing facts. All right, so I'm going to share those facts with you. I remain your boy, Abdullah Gideon. Please, before you go anywhere, make sure you subscribe. Grab a drink, grab a popcorn, because this is going to be interesting. All right, so we are back again. Quickly, we were talking about Isaiah 14, right? And the key verse there is Isaiah 14, verse 12. It says, "Oh, how you are thrown down from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning." And we begin to see some prophecies about this Lucifer guy who says, well, I will ascend to the mount of God. I will be like the Most High. I will do whatever. From Isaiah chapter 14, verse 12, all the way to verse 15 to verse 16. I will climb into the mounts of God. I will be like the Most High. And now, quickly, I want to point out that the division of Bible into chapters and verses was done by men. Initially, the Bible was, so for example, the book of Isaiah was just one book, no chapter 1, no chapter 2. But we have chapters and verses for easy referencing. Yes, by the time I say Isaiah 4:2, it's easy for you to flip. And for easy memorization, so Isaiah chapter 8, verse 1, the Lord said, so you're able to remember. Now, somehow, that classification did not really help, because the whole conversation at some point was broken. So when you're switching from one chapter to the next, some people think they've changed conversation. No, the conversation still remains the same. It's still the same valid conversation. All right. So let me quickly take you back a bit, because Isaiah chapter 14 starts from Isaiah chapter 13. So for you to properly understand what Isaiah chapter 14 is talking about, you need to go back to Isaiah 13. So that is our first issue. How many of the pastors that preach Isaiah 14 verse 12 have actually studied Isaiah 13 beautifully and diligently? Welcome to the Quick Church. We have done that study, and that is why we are here to share with you. Please subscribe. Share this because it's very important and it will revolutionize your understanding of Satan. In fact, let me shock you, in the Old Testament, you hardly see the devil mentioned because these guys had little understanding or little revelation of who the devil was. So for Isaiah 14 to be giving us detailed revelation about the devil, then something must be up. All right, so like we said, instead of yapping and going forward, let's go back a bit to Isaiah 13. In Isaiah 13, you begin to read the prophecy God gives Isaiah, and that prophecy is what? Against the king of Babylon. Now, is this a physical king? By the time you begin to read that in Isaiah 13, I'll be flashing the scriptures up so you'll be seeing them. So by the time you are reading Isaiah chapter 13, you begin to see God calling the name of the people involved, the king of Medo-Persia, the Medo-Persian Empire. God says he's going to bring them against Babylon. And we know that this happened in the reign of Nebuchadnezzar's grandson, when the Medo-Persian Empire came and overran Babylon. So you could see it was a physical prophecy that was fulfilled. And this prophecy was fulfilled in the days of Daniel. Meanwhile, Isaiah was the one giving the prophecy. So Isaiah begins to prophesy that, oh, Babylon, you have become proud. You have become so lifted. You have so, you are raising your shoulders. And God is going to bring some enemies to fight against you. And then God now even begins to start Isaiah chapter 14 futuristically. It says, in the day the children of Israel will be free. The day the children of Israel will be delivered from the captivity of Babylon. Hold on. When was Israel taken as captives? Under the reign of Nebuchadnezzar. In the book of Jeremiah, it is mentioned how the children of Israel went into exile into Babylon. How Nebuchadnezzar punished Jerusalem, plundered the house of God, and took them as what? Captive. That was even how we have the story of Shadrach, Meshach, Abednego, Daniel. Those 4 Hebrew boys that did so excellently well in the Babylonian Empire. So we can see that this is a physical prophecy, and we have seen the manifestation and the reality of those prophecies coming to pass. So God now says in verse 14, in verse 4 of Isaiah 14, he says, raise up what? A song against the king of Babylon in the day that he is defeated. Now, when we're talking about a song in Bible days, it's very interesting because the way they did their poetry then was different from the kind of poetry we have now. Now, first of all, their poetry and their songs were filled with something called hyperbole. And a hyperbole is an exaggerated statement, not to be taken literally. So, for example, remember when David killed Goliath, the women were singing a song again, and they said what? Saul has killed thousands, David has killed 10,000s. But, David was just fighting his first war. How could he have killed 10,000? So you could see that they were exaggerating a bit to paint the picture. So that is what a hyperbole is. And so we also see elements of a hyperbole in Isaiah 14 from verse 4 to the last verse. Sometimes reality comes in, sometimes hyperbole comes in. All right. So by the time you begin to study the elements of Isaiah 14, you now begin to see that could God be talking about Satan or a man? Because he says that hell is stirred to meet you. Now, the word for hell there is the Hebrew word Sheol. Sheol means the grave. So that means the grave is prepared to receive your dead body. Now, does Satan go to the grave? Can Satan be killed? He's a spirit. Spirits don't die. So for people that even pray, let the devil die. That's a very wrong prayer. Because spirits don't die. The devil is a spirit. And then you now begin to see, he says that other kings are surprised that is this the person that troubled other nations. Now, if we are saying that Isaiah 14 is talking about the devil, so who are the other people existing in hell before the devil comes to hell? Let's think in scriptures. Who are the people in hell before the devil comes to hell? So you can see that the whole logic is no longer adding up. So it says what? Isaiah 14 verse 12. Now, the first word I want to pick out there, based on our law of definition, is what? Lucifer. And who is Lucifer? Now, Lucifer is not a person. Lucifer is a title. Okay? Just as you can call somebody a bishop or a governor or a king or a president, a head of state. Those are titles, functioning offices. So the same way Lucifer is a title. In fact, Lucifer is a Latin word, and when properly translated, it is called what? Morning star, day star, or shining star. Those three words, those are the three words that actually define the word Lucifer. Lucifer, lumos, light. Lumos, anything lux in Latin is light. Talking about light bearer, somebody that brings light. Okay? So by the time you are following that narrative, it's only the King James that uses Lucifer. And remember, the King James was directly, the whole Latin Vulgate by Jeremy. I know some of you have not understood Bible transcripts by the time you talk of the Septuagint, the Masoretic text, blah, blah, blah. Don't worry, soon we'll get to that. So, the Latin for Lucifer is actually light bearer. But when you translate it to our more English term, it means a morning star, shining star, day star. Only the King James uses what? Lucifer. And then it says what? Oh, Lucifer, how art thou fallen? In King James, it says son of the morning. So in King James, it says Lucifer, son of the morning. In other translations, it says Lucifer, son of what? The dawn. Now, what is the morning star? What is shining star? What is the day star? From the word morning star, there is a light that comes in the morning before the sun comes up. That is what is referred to as morning star. There is a light in the morning before the sun comes up. Day star, morning star, shining star. All right. And in fact, if you remember in 1 Peter, Peter referred to Jesus as what? The day star rising in our hearts. So like I said, Lucifer is a title. So Jesus also bears the title Lucifer. Now let's come back to Isaiah 14. I know you are surprised here. But again, like I said, this is quick, concise Bible studies. So now we come back to Isaiah 14. And then you now begin to see, I will ascend to the mount of God. I will be like the Most High. And all those. Like I said, those are hyperboles. Now, in the Babylonian religion, they have many similarities to the Greek religion. So, for example, in the Greek religion, their gods dwelt on what? A mountain, Mount Olympus. And even the geography, the physical nature of the place, I think the topography of Mount Olympus, it is covered with clouds, with fog. So, in those days when their science was not as properly developed as it is now, they could see the fog and think they are clouds and assume, okay, that is where the gods stay. those clouds are the gates to where the gods reside. All right. So the same ideology was manifest in the Babylonian Semitic religion. So, but for them, it was not just any mountain, because in the King James, it calls it that mountain the north. If you read verse 13 and 14, it says the sides of the north. Now, that north, there is a word, Zaphon. And Zaphon is an actual mountain. I've forgotten the name now in the actual Hebrew, Jeru something. I think you'll see the name right there on your screen, the current name for Mount Zaphon. And the physical characteristics of Mount Zaphon also was a mountain that was always surrounded with ash, thick black ash. So they could assume that those were the clouds that the mount of the god. The mountain was worshipped for whatever reason. So the ash there, they must have thought, okay, this is the cloud and these are where the gods reside. So even in the old religions, you see, Pharaoh was considered a god. So when he says, I will be like God, I will be like the Most High, I will ascend the clouds of heaven, he is just referring to certain properties within his own religion. And that was what God was addressing. But by the time we read Isaiah 14 verse 16, God mentions this person. It says what? A man. God doesn't address him as a spirit. God addresses him as a man. In fact, God now goes to prophesy against his children. He said that his children will be killed, they will not inherit the land, and they will not possess their inheritance. Now, let me just take us back in history a bit. How many of us remember King Hezekiah in the Bible? Remember, he was attacked by a particular Assyrian king, right? Now, in those days, Babylon and Assyria had a very funny relationship. So sometimes the power of Babylon will be high, the power of Assyria will be low. So Babylon will now rule over Assyria. And when Assyria's power is high, Babylon's power will be low. Assyria will rule over Babylon. But they were in the same geographical space. So sometimes when you're talking of Assyria, you're also talking of Babylon. Sometimes when you're talking of Babylon, you're also talking of Assyria. And they even had a funny relationship such that the overall king could be Assyrian, and then he will appoint a vassal king in Babylon. So the Babylonian king will still reign, but he'll be subject to the Assyrian king. And so that was what was happening when King Nebuchadnezzar was attacked. The overall Assyrian king during that period was a king known by the name Tiglath-Pileser III. The name is also on the screen as well. And the Babylonian vassal under him was Sennacherib. Now, Sennacherib is considered as one of the most proud and wicked Babylonian kings to have ruled, even before Nebuchadnezzar. Remember, the Babylonian kings were filled with pride. Nebuchadnezzar built an image of gold, signifying his kingdom. God had to turn Nebuchadnezzar to an animal for 7 years just to humble him, so that he can remember that it is God that rules and reigns in the affairs of men. So the Isaiah 14 entity is a physical human being, not a spirit, not Lucifer, not the devil. Now, pride works in everybody, but that doesn't make them the devil. There are Christians today who are born again, who speak in tongues, who walk in the gifts of the Spirit, but once in a while, pride manifests. So they now need to work on themselves to become more humble and fight the spirit of pride. Okay? But that does not make them Satan because they acted proudly. And so, because the king of Babylon acted proudly, does not necessarily make him the devil. Remember, it was even God that lifted the king of Babylon in the first place to begin to wage war against nations and to conquer. Alright, so we'll stop here for now. In our next video, we are going to look at the next Bible passage that is interpreted similarly as Isaiah 14, and that is Ezekiel 28. Alright guys, so keep it a date with us. Remember, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I know this topic is very controversial. I'd love to hear your comments in the comment box below, and don't forget to share with your friends and families. I remain yours sincerely, Abdullah Gideon, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.